remind everybody, make sure your mics are on. And you too, Stuart? No, because I couldn't hear you the other time. Good evening, Town of Cromwell Planning and Zoning, regular meeting of Tuesday, June 17th. I'm calling to order. Alice Kelly, Chair.
Mike Canada.
Andrew Holt, alternate.
John Comtois, alternate.
Dan Grasso.
Nick Dimitriadis.
Vincenzo Marfella.
Okay, I'd like to have a motion to seat the alternates, please.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? And with us tonight, we have Bruce Driska, our, excuse me, our zoning enforcement officer, and Stuart Popper, and Lori. Linda. The other one is Lori. Do we have anyone else from town?
Sooner or later someday.
I'm on 3 different commissions, so, you know.
I've been demoted.
Okay, everybody, okay, and Mr. Popper?
There's no changes to the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public comments coming before us?
None.
None. Okay. Moving on.
Did she make copies of these? Did you pass those out?
Yeah.
No, you can tell, I thought she did.
I asked her to.
Yeah, you didn't see him in the pile. Hold on.
You got, you need this?
Oh, no,
Oh,
apologies, I had an enforcement, could you pass this down to Alice, please?
that's all right. You can just,
You can read it.
I thought that we had copies for everybody, but we don't. And I just want to give you a brief overview besides what was in your packet. Similar to the last meeting, the enforcement update is that 134 Coles Road continues to receive blight fines for continued violations of grossly overgrown vegetation, inoperable unregistered motor vehicle in the front yard, and junk displayed. 101 South Street, which I mentioned was receiving zoning fines, is now under appeal, so the fines have stopped or stayed until the appeal, the date is yet to be announced. And then we have enforcement at this time of the year. We have miscellaneous locations of tall grass everywhere in town. No mow May is over, so that's not cutting it, no pun intended. Development update, as you know, the TPC Travelers Tournament is underway this week. It's fully compliant with the Planning and Zoning Commission's issued special permit. 134 West Street, the Popeyes restaurant, the foundation is now complete.
so when's the opening date?
We don't have that information as of yet.
Too bad.
Oh, well, we'll get it.
The Cromwell Middle School, the final CO inspection is expected to occur next week. And I gave you an initial peek at 25/35 Kirby Road with the debris of wood that's being chipped, and that is now underway. The wood chipping is underway, and they're hauling dump truck after dump truck out with wood chips to a mulch making facility somewhere else in the state. So it's out of Cromwell. Any questions on anything? I'd be glad to address them or anything else you have.
And, anybody know anything about the Red Lion? I mean, is it still in?
Mr. Popper will comment on that.
Oh, that's okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nobody else has anything? Mr. Popper?
Okay, so I just want to mention a couple of things. So, there was a restaurant in the golf course, briefly, I think it was called Fort Cromwell or something similar.
Oliver.
Oliver.
Yeah.
Oliver, yeah. Hold on for 1 second, I just got it.
Yeah, he's gone.
Okay.
Is he gone?
Yep.
So that closed, there's a new restaurant moving in, so that, we don't have the name of it yet, but there will be a new restaurant moving in. They've met with us, they've met with the health department.
Oh.
They're moving forward to occupy the space. So that's gonna be a curing. We talked with the Middlesex Hospital developer, and they are expecting the office building to be open October 1st and occupied by Middlesex Hospital
Wonderful.
doctors, so we're very excited about that. In relationship to 100 Berlin Road, as everybody knows, we received a very large grant, $3 million grant for the demolition and some of the work there, rehabilitation, because of it's basically a brownfield. The developer has paused because the developer is trying to decide exactly how much money it wants to take from the state based on the restrictions that the state granted. discussed, where they're removing the towers, and the property will be more like a traditional three-story development. So, you know, similar size-wise, height-wise to the Landon. So we expect to see that probably sometime in the fall. We hope that the agreement with the state is negotiated over the summer, and we see some activity there sooner than later.
That's good.
So unfortunately, that's the situation.
They own the property already, correct?
Yes,
They do,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Do you think there's any possibility they're waiting to see what's gonna happen with, 5002's housing bill?
No, no, because all this was going on before the housing bill.
Okay,
This doesn't have anything to do with the housing bill.
okay,
The issue's been, to be quite honest, I'll give you an example. So, Belafonte up in Rocky Hill at the Ames site, he received a large grant. And the grant was channeled down to $999,000, because if it's under $1 million, there's a lot less restrictions as far as hiring, as far as wages, et cetera, et cetera.
okay.
So, so that's you know, for a developer doing a large project, that becomes a major issue. So how much money do you wanna, how much is it really worth? Put it to you that way.
Is prevailing wage, let me turn this, is prevailing wage one of the issues?
I don't know, there are a number of restrictions
Okay,
based on that large amount.
yep,
You know, I mean, you know, it's, you know, they don't let you, just take the money and go. So, we'll see what happens.
okay.
Anybody
Thank
else
you very
have
much.
anything?
I don't know if anybody has any questions about anything else. Like I said, Middlesex Hospital, the new restaurant over there, those are some of the things going on. We still have, conversations about some very large properties in town. We're waiting to see what happens with those. We will be getting an application to amend the zoning regulations to allow for banquet halls in the industrial zone. We currently don't allow anything like that. Specifically, that's for the Ukrainian club,
Oh, okay.
because basically, right now, they cannot rent that property out. Their use is restricted to a banquet facility for their members. So for them to do anything else, the zoning regs would have to change, and they would have to get a special permit.
And based on that, even though we say that we changed everything, because that has some type of a deal, because that's a condominium thing that goes way, way back, so what, but
That
that's.
doesn't influence us.
Oh, okay, but I mean, can they then ask us to come and have a banquet hall if that private enterprise doesn't wanna have a banquet hall?
That's not
Oh,
our
okay,
business.
all right,
It's
I'm
not our
just,
business.
okay, fine,
If they have restrictions on the property because of the condominium association, that's between them and the association.
okay,
And before the first thing that anybody would have to do is they would have to amend the zoning regulations so that they would allow for a banquet hall. And my recommendation, that it would be by special permit only, and then you could have restrictive hours for each one. So if, you know, somebody bought the old crematorium and decided to turn that into a banquet hall, they would have to come in for their own application, and it would be a special permit for them, and we could restrict it. And anybody in any of those zones doing anything like that.
Do you know off the top of your head whether or not the parking that they have
Yeah,
pencils
it's
out
more
for
than
the
that.
square
Yeah,
footage?
Yeah, it meets, they have a
So
lot of
they're
parking.
okay,
Yeah, they have a lot of parking.
good, okay,
I mean, they've got enough parking for a large place of assembly.
okay.
okay. At this time, I'd like to give kudos both to Stuart and to Bruce for the place that is not my favorite, called the Crisp. I do think that by you two working together, at least the landscaping and all, and also how the building looks, is really very nice.
Yep.
Aside from what they sell.
And we haven't seen any, we're not the neighbors, and we're not the property owner, but from our daily drive-bys, we have not seen any traffic issues, or have we been, any traffic issues reported to us by the police.
And also, they had their big grand opening last Saturday.
Yeah.
So, but I do wanna say that, you know,
Yeah, I
Looks-
think it came out looking nice.
Yes.
You know, Bruce did an excellent job making sure that the landscaping was all done and everything was done before the CO and also obviously our building inspector. And so, you know, we're pretty pleased with the way it looks. And hopefully, you know, everybody gets along and it all works out.
Okay, so.
Thank you, and also, I might add, it was a lot to do with what the commission conditioned on the site plan approval of what you required, so it was a group effort. I'd say a joint effort, but it was more of a group effort.
Even the siding on the
You're on a
building
roll
looks,
tonight.
right, even the siding looks different than what they first proposed. Because there aren't the big windows that they thought they were gonna have there, so it looks very nice. Okay, moving on.
There might be a limit on puns, I just wanna let you know.
That was perfect.
Perfect. Okay, moving on.
So, we don't have any new applications to accept this evening, so we can go on to new business. So, it's gonna be application 2419, review of a permit with conditions for application for a special permit under section 3.2C4 of the Town of Cromwell zoning regulations to permit a restaurant with accessory sales of alcoholic beverages at 5114 Shunpike Road. The applicant is Casey Hancock. The owner is HBN CSC LLC, care of Nicken Group. And the applicant and their attorney in the property and the business owner are here this evening to make a brief presentation on the status of, just give you an update on the status of how everything's going. So we do have, you are hooked up, right?
I just put,
Yep. So, yeah, we're gonna go to O2, so just bear with us for a second. And I'll make the presentation, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. You can
Hi.
bring the mic
You can
over
bring
there
the
if
mic.
you
Oh, I
wanna
can't,
run your.
Oh,
I can walk around with it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hi, my name is Megan Smith. I know I've been here a couple times. We are back tonight. I had submitted some paperwork ahead of time. I'm not sure if it was circulated. I do have your copies here for you. I also have a technical plan showing where the door is and what we did to it. And then I also have, I should just put it in there, for the patio in the front as well. So I'll just.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so as it was stated at the last meeting,
need
the
another?
problem with the sound in the back was a back door that did not have automatic hinges. So what we did is we installed self-closing hinges, so now the door cannot stay open. There's also a sign on the door that forbids employees to prop the door open. They have to keep it closed at all times. And then in support of this, we took a video of a night on the weekend when we had live music, showing what it looks like and what it sounds like once the door is closed. So that's what I'm gonna play for you now. And then the other documents in your paperwork are the floor plan with to the door that we installed the self-closing hinges on. This is an older drawing, so I just want to point out that this door that I'm circling the mouse over no longer exists. There's not a door there. And then this door is locked. It doesn't open. It's actually part of a storage closet. So the only door that was out here with the problem was this one, which we just showed you the video of. And then the other document in your packet is this of the drawing of the outdoor patio. So these this is in the front. So these doors are the doors, if you compare it to the floor plan, are in the middle of the front of the restaurant.
Megan, let me ask you a question. So, looking at the drawing, just so to clarify it for everybody, I'm looking at this drawing.
Yes.
Okay, so where it says outdoor patio, the words outdoor patio, that would be the parking lot.
Yes, sorry, that's the title to the document.
Yeah, yep, so, and then where you have the 3-foot, 10-inch pillar, is that the doorway? If you look at the drawing?
So, I'll point over here.
Thank you very much.
So these doors are, it's not that, this is not the main entry door, correct?
Okay, yep.
The main entry door is down here on the left. This is the door from the patio into the restaurant,
Oh, okay,
okay?
yep.
So this is all completely closed off. The only way to access it is through the interior of the restaurant.
And is this your proposal for the outdoor patio?
Correct.
So, in order for you to do anything with the outdoor patio, you would have to modify your existing special permit, and that would require a separate application.
We did that.
When?
What was the date that you? He filed it on June 9th with your office and went down and paid the fee.
We haven't, that wasn't formally received. I don't know what happened. My secretary's been here, I don't know what happened, but,
You didn't bring it down there? I told you to bring it down there with the check, yes. I apologize, he did not bring it down there. So this will be brought down there tomorrow to your office.
yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
So
But
that's our
also-
proposal, but it will be shown again.
And so just so you know, so basically what you're asking for is you're gonna be asking to modify your special permit for a liquor permit. And then obviously you would have to go back to the state of Connecticut and modify it with them, because if you're gonna serve liquor on this patio, because your original liquor permit did not call for patio sales.
So the final liquor permit that came, and I thought you gave a copy.
I would entertain that as a commissioner. The other thing, I just wanted, when I read the conditions, the in-house security shall be provided till closing time, anytime there's live music or a DJ, but you're not having a live music or a DJ after 12:30, is that correct?
That is correct,
Excuse me for one
yes.
second, get off. That might help us, because we'll just go to the, because you finished, you demonstrated. Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. So we'll just go zero, it should come back. I think we need to turn the screens back on. Yeah, let's see what happens. Yeah. And we're live. Thank you very much.
So the security goes away at 12:30 if it's,
No,
no?
no,
Okay,
it
I
stays till
understand.
closing, 2 o'clock.
Oh, house security should, until closing time, anytime there's live music or a DJ.
Correct, but we're still open till 2. The doorman will stay there till the last people leave the property.
Okay. So,
So
live,
they're there anyways. We stop the music at 12:30. They are still there to 2 o'clock. That doesn't mean everybody's leaving the premises.
you're not planning on any music from 12:30 to 2?
We haven't been. We can't. That's part of the ordinance. We can't do that.
Right now.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but you're asking to include that.
Yes, correct.
And so that, if you look at the way number 4 reads, I'm a little confused with the language there. So you will have live music or a DJ until 2 o'clock?
Correct. They're
Okay.
gonna stop roughly at 1:30 at the latest, because we want to get everybody out of the door by 2 o'clock, correct. The doormen are there till 2 o'clock.
There shall be no live music or DJ after 12:30 a.m. on any day, that's number 3.
That's correct now, right now. We're trying to get it extended to 1:30. We'll say 1:30 if you want to put that in. Because no one's gonna keep the live music going past 1:30, because they want to get everybody out the building at 2 o'clock.
I still think the opportunity is there for us to put a condition on it for a trial basis, because I do think that they have been back often, and the neighbors haven't been complaining according to the police chief. I don't know that that's an option, I'm just putting it out there.
Thank you.
So, while I do appreciate Mike's comments, and I think we were pretty clear about the abatement plan, after seeing the video and the adjustments that were made to the door, and then listening to the music on the outside, it seems pretty clear, at least sounds pretty clear, that has taken care of some, or almost all of the problem, if there's anything left of it.
I agree with you, Nick, it made a huge difference.
I'm
I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that, as Ann just stated in her last statement, that we keep bringing these people back for additional requirements. Maybe there was a misunderstanding, whatever the case may be, but it seems they've taken reasonable and actionable steps to mitigate at least the majority of the problem. I think if we allow for the expansion until 1:30, from what I've heard, I don't see that that's gonna be an issue, honestly. I don't know that I would wanna spend, or ask them to spend additional dollars on an abatement plan, where it seems that if you go outside that door, once it's closed, and with a sign there saying keep it closed, and they make every attempt and make sure that their workers or employees keep it closed, it doesn't sound to me, sorry, bad pun. It doesn't seem to me that there would be a problem by allowing them to extend. That's just, and again, all deference to your comments. I understand what you're saying. I just don't, I don't see what the dividends are for them, and I don't see what necessarily more it's gonna do. If I don't hear anything, I don't hear anything. I don't know if putting additional abatement requirements on them is necessarily, and costs, is necessarily gonna help that business stay in town and continue to serve the public and the town of Cromwell, obviously. That's my 2 cents. I think if we can find a middle ground, as maybe Ann suggested, but even month to month, I mean, they've been coming back since September, so, and again, misunderstandings or misreadings, I mean, that's our language, that's our conditional language in there. That's not their language, that's our language we put in, the security language, right? The conditions were proposed and accepted by us. So, if we could clarify those, that would be fine too. But again, not to belabor the point, I think they've met their burden reasonably, and it doesn't sound to me that there's any issues coming out that door. And if they keep that door closed like they said they can do, and there's nobody complaining about it, then I think they've taken care of the problem. That's my 2 cents.
Madam Chair? Mr. Maloney, question for you.
Sir.
The door that we viewed on the video, that door is to where?
Going out the kitchen.
Okay. Is that the only way out of the kitchen?
That is correct.
How do they take out garbage at the end of the shift or the end of the night?
Through that door.
Okay. So, I'm leading you to my point, is I think the issue is, since you now have a door closer, and the door does stay closed, as you're gonna go later into the night and there's music playing, that's going to be a problem, an anticipated problem, probably would be a police call generator. So you have to be careful of when you're opening that door as you're going later into the night to take care of kitchen business, going out to the dumpster, going out to the grease bucket, or whatever they have to do. So how would you propose to deal with that as you're getting later into the night, and it's after 10 o'clock, let's say, and now people might be prone to calling because, you know, it went off at 11:05, and again 11:30, and then at 12:15, and
Well, you can see that door shuts pretty quickly, so you're talking seconds from the time they open it to the time it's closed behind them, going out to the door.
I'm carrying things.
You're going this side, you're going sideways, you're too wide, you're not.
But I'm carrying things to go through the door. How fast am I going through?
You're going to the door. Once you go out the door, you're out, a couple seconds, you're out the door.
You'll see to that, I take it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Casey certainly will.
Thank you, my point, thank you.
Question,
welcome.
what time does your kitchen close?
They've been closing typically about midnight, Casey? About midnight, yeah, so they're getting everything cleaned
So
up, they're done
is
by 1 o'clock.
most of your cleanup and all that kind of
By
thing
1 o'clock,
done?
yes. Yeah.
Okay, so there really isn't anybody going through that door after 1 o'clock to speak of, other than a garbage pail or two.
That's correct.
So that helps a lot. And to Nick's point, I mean, like I said, huge difference. I'm sad that you didn't do the sound abatement plan. I'd still like to see a sound abatement plan, but to Nick's point, I don't wanna hold you up. I don't wanna push you out of town. You're doing a great job there. We've had no trouble. We've got no problems in the parking lot. We gotta find some middle ground.
I just look at this and calling about sound abatement plan, when it was really that back door. That's what
Correct.
people were complaining about. So now when you're talking about bringing in an engineer, putting up whatever tiles and things like that, for what? For whom? I mean, there was no sound when that door was closed and the music was going. And I just think that when you're asking a person, or else you have to go to the owner of the building to say is, if you want to rent this out, you have to do all this sound abatement for us to have anything, for you to have anybody come in with music. I mean, you own the walls, you own the doors, so that you have to make sure that it's not going to affect your neighbors, because you own the building. I just think that we're asking too much, and I have to agree with, just go ahead until, if the police chief comes back and says people are with their hair on fire, then you have to come back here, and then,
No worries.
we'll have to talk to the owner, talk to you, or close the business down, because you can't have something that's making people have nightmares. That's how I look at it. I mean, I think you've met everything.
If that's the only leak, I don't know what other updates to the building would improve that. If that's the only where the sound leak is, doing anything to the ceiling or to the exterior roof or other parts of the building.
There was a fan on the roof.
A fan. Well, the fan, but that's a mechanical issue,
I
right?
understand it's a mechanical issue. I don't know if it was
Yeah,
That is.
okay.
just saying that.
Ellis's point, the landlord is not responsible for interior fit out. So if there's gonna be sound abatement done inside the building,
Fine.
that's the tenant's responsibility. And that's exactly what we went through at Wesleyan Hills. Connecticut Wedding Group spent substantial amount of money, within the building, not outside of the building.
Right, I understand when you talk about the Wesleyan barn or whatever it was. We're talking about a place here that they came in, they did the door, that
Yep.
anybody talked about that was going up into Cromwell Hills. People were having a fit. People have been sitting out on their patios and things like this. I mean, I just think that when you're asking people to have to bring in an engineer and to do all this, and nobody really is with their hair on fire about the sound, keeping me awake, having me have nightmares, and calling the police. I just think that is really pushing it. I understand that they're the tenant and things like this, and they're the ones that are making the music. But I think that when we're saying is that you need to have a sound abatement, and the only thing that I remember them coming about was the door or this clunky thing that made, when the police came out, that it was really a fan or something. I mean, so I just think that, in my opinion, they have met the requirements of getting rid of that sound that was going up into the condos.
So the short question is, are you in favor of live music till 2 AM?
Am I in favor of it?
That's what they're asking for. Are you in favor?
1:30 is fine.
1:30?
1:30 is fine.
Are
We're
you
not
in
gonna play
favor
till
of
2
live
o'clock,
music
I'm
till
telling you right
1:30?
now.
Well, the way I look at it is, they're asking what we have allowed in the rest of our town. So what are we gonna say is because they're here, the other people are on Sotheby Drive, or they're down in, where the Mexicans, if they start bringing in music and things like that on that special day that they have, I mean, I think that we're just pushing it. I mean, you know, am I in favor of it? I don't go to places like that, cause I'm old. Those days are gone, you know, to be out there.
Bring that security footage, would you?
Right, yeah. You know, but I just think that you have to have common sense. And the way I look at it is, it was the door that music was coming out, you know, whether or not, you know, we allow people, I don't even know how, well, I'm not getting into that. But, you know, we allow things to be done. I just think that, in my view, they have met the requirements, you know, and until we have, as I say, people coming, the police coming and just saying is, commission, we have to do something here. So, that's my personal opinion.
So, my,
Yeah, go ahead.
When did the closing hinge get put on it?
They have the,
the date is on the,
actually, I thought you submitted the
So I have a
receipt.
proposal for May 2nd and a check for May 21st. Is that when it was on the 21st?
Some, probably before that, it's probably May 2nd was closer, that's probably when I paid it, I would assume. Once I got my bill, I would,
So it would have been, well, May 2nd was when APG did the proposal,
correct?
and then May 21st, so somewhere in between.
Somebody in between there, yes,
So-
sure.
About a month it's been on, you would say?
Oh, yes, yeah, about that, at least. Yeah, I think, yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, it's worth a trial at least.
Okay.
How many bands and live music have you had in the past month there?
Yeah, it's Friday and Saturday night.
Fridays, every
Yes.
weekend you have that?
Absolutely,
You
yes.
have there, so
Yep.
you've had bands there Friday, live music there Friday and Saturday for a month with the door closed and you
Yep.
haven't had an issue?
Not an issue.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe we can move the question about raising it to 1:30 on, and then some type of stipulation that we could revisit it, should we, again, I'm just spitballing here, right? So, should we hear or receive any complaints and/or within 2 months check back, but I don't know what we check back to if nobody's complaining, so. We can make it with a stipulation to 1:30 unless we hear otherwise for complaints from either the police or other people who may complain to the commission, something along those lines.
I'm not opposed to going longer than 2 months.
Well, I'm just kinda,
I'm okay with 1:30, I'm okay
Right.
with stretching it out a little bit.
Yep.
Because they've done a good job. On a personal level, I would still like to see a sound engineer show up and walk through the property and give you a report. And if he's got suggestions and they're ridiculously expensive, then I understand how you may not be able to do them, but our original proposal was to ask for a report, and I think we're owed that report. And that was an original condition from last time. So, again, I'm not opposed to, you've done a great job, I'm not opposed to increasing the hours, but I do still wanna see a report.
may I ask you a question?
Sure.
As someone who was in that industry and has had those before, do you have any idea what that would cost?
I don't, because I was the worker that did the installations. I wasn't the engineer that did the walkthrough. I can tell you that I'm pretty confident it was not horribly expensive.
Sorry, Rock Emmons, oh my God, senior civil engineer now. We have sound engineers
Oh, there you go.
that can perform this study. It's typically between about $4,000 to $5,000.
Wow.
Sorry, Jack.
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't expecting that number, to be very blunt. I thought it would be half that, but that's,
Well, I think that's all.
You don't have to explain it to me.
No, so it's typically about a full day's worth of time for an engineer to go out there and actually perform, well, they rent the equipment, they set the equipment up around the building and interior of the building. And what they'll do is they'll figure out the decibels. They'll have to actually ideally put equipment inside the building, you know, emulating a band playing, which I believe it was Groove Grove who was playing that night, not that I know. Shameless plug. Typically that occurs, and then they'll find out, you know, what the decibel level is outside the building and what needs to be in place interior. It'll have a list of recommendations. It'll actually probably find out that the ordinance in the town is a certain decibel level and that they're not meeting the decibel when they're at the property line. That'll be part of the report. Specifically, I would refer them to a principal acoustical engineer and sound engineer in my office, Damian Bell. And they're more than welcome to solicit if they are required. Thank you.
Excuse me, I believe that our police department has this machine that can go out.
They all do.
they do.
Yep.
Right, so
Correct.
therefore, I don't, what?
For the outdoors only, though, not.
Right, but what I'm saying is, that's what they're all looking at, is the outdoors.
Correct.
I mean, whether or not you're in a place that blasts your ear out, that's up to a lot of people, because even that music on inside was enough to make you have a headache. But I think that, you know, to ask somebody to have to go out and spend, when we could say, go out and see if the decibels are higher than what our ordinance says. Now you have a problem.
Well, I will say that, I think to spend that kind of money is a little bit onerous. So I will withdraw my request for that condition, because I had no idea it was that expensive for a problem that doesn't presently exist and that you've already fixed 90% of, so let's have at it.
Okay.
Wanna move the question?
Move the question, okay.
Okay, sure. So I'd like to move that we modify, I have to find the document. That we modify our special conditions for special permit number 24-19 for the property address at 15-14 Shunpike Road, to extend condition number 3 that stipulates there shall be no live music or DJ after 12:30 a.m. on any day, to read that, to amend to say there should be no live music or DJ after 1:30 a.m. on any day. And that would be the only stipulated change I would make.
And about the requirement,
We have
Number
numbers 5 and
six.
6. We need to do something with 5 and 6. Because we're updating.
Okay, so
1:30.
you wanna go 3 months? You wanna go, what do you wanna do? 3 months, 6 months, 1 month? 3 months? Bruce, you okay with 3 months? Is everybody here okay with 3
I would
months?
recommend 6 months just so that.
Get through the summer?
Get through the summer, and in the winter, when there's fewer leaves on the trees, maybe the sound might flow a little differently, I think, than the air.
Everybody okay with 6?
Right, 6 months.
Good point.
So June 17th, that puts us to what, December?
I didn't hear, I'm sorry, what is will we have another review period?
Special permit will be reviewed by the commission at their meeting on December 17th, and a report will be presented by town staff on the status of the above conditions, so 6 months from now.
But why do we have to really and truly have another meeting
I don't think we need to do
unless that we have complaints from the police department? I mean, we're
Because
putting
if
it to
you-
1:30. So if
If you don't have another review and you have complaints, you don't have any feet under you to do anything about it.
Well,
What
then
if-
the way I look at it is that we would put it in that there will be another review upon complaints.
Pending any complaints?
I have an easier solution.
Go ahead.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
So the easier solution is that we ask them to present a report to the staff
Yes.
in December, okay?
That's good.
And you'll just update us on where you are in December. I'm not asking you to come back to the commission. And, that way, if there's any issue, we can report it to the commission. We're not putting any onerous task upon them. We're just saying that, in December, they'll submit a report to the town staff and say there were no complaints, we've been playing the music, everything's fine, that's it.
So number 5 should read,
The only one's complaining would be the chief. I don't wanna
this thing, so number 5 should read, the special permit will be reviewed by staff on or before December 17th on the status of the above conditions.
On the report though from,
Why don't you
you
say
have
that?
to say who the report is coming from.
So, to comment on Mr. Popper's last statement, for the applicant to come in, say, December, to give us a report, if there were any complaints, we would already know that, because the police would give us that information. So it's definitely redundant to have him come in, and
Right.
please don't take this the wrong way. We put our credibility on the police department, not from an applicant giving us information, so.
Well, it's pending any complaints
Right.
from the chief of police, right?
Right,
That's
so,
what I was saying.
As an example, in your packet, you had one complaint that was generated, and it
Right, and you took
resulted
action.
in the police officer not finding any loud music,
Right.
so.
So it would be really and
So
truly.
do you want condition 5 to be eliminated? Or how do you want to handle condition 5?
Why do we even need it?
Yeah, I'm saying, I don't know, we even need it, if there's a pending complaint, then we'll ask them, the customer or the client to come back and say, here's what we found, you gotta do something about it. I mean, we could raise a concern there, right? It becomes a staff matter, it becomes a zoning enforcement issue, right, from the police, wouldn't it? Doesn't,
I would agree with that, but,
Yeah.
to answer your question on number 5, do you wanna say something similar to the effect of the special permit will be reviewed by the commission, or will be reviewed by the commission and town staff based upon pending complaints received, noise complaints received by the Cromwell Police Department, or something to that effect?
Well, how long
Because
is the
there's no-
special permit for? Forever? As long as they're there?
Or the permit
The
goes
hours,
up.
the hours of
no-
operation, yes.
Right, but I'm just saying is, if they've met everything, and unless that the police come, we don't have to review the special permit, it's there.
I agree with you, but I was addressing his concern about noise complaint and how to tie that into one of the conditions or not.
let me
Right.
ask you this, if the police right now, let's say Chicago Sam's was there, and the police had a complaint, would the zoning enforcement officer go out and do something about that? No, who would take care of the complaint? The police?
The police would take care of the complaint, they would notify us, and we would notify the commission.
And you'd notify the commission that there's a complaint about the noise, and then they would have to appear before the commission to address the fact why there was noise issues?
Right,
I'm guessing?
honestly, I don't know if I would notify the commission if there was one complaint.
No, I'm talking about a series of ongoing complaints. It became a pattern of complaints.
But hold on a second. The police can only enforce if the noise level exceeds their decibel.
Right.
Okay,
Well, that's the ordinance, right?
right.
Yeah.
So to your point, it's not the number of complaints that the police receive, it's the number of violations that the police
Right, so if
found
they get
upon
violation after
responding to the
violation for
complaints.
several weeks in a row, then we know there's an issue, then we can take some action, but otherwise, I think we remove 5 and 6 and let things,
I don't disagree with you, but understand that if you remove 5 and 6 entirely, and they have noise issues that are below the decibel reading, so they're not enforceable by the police, but the neighbors are still going ballistic, you've got an issue. And you've got no legs under you to be able to enforce
but
anything.
that's an ordinance issue though, Mike, that's an ordinance
It's
that
an
comes out of.
ordinance if they exceed the decibel level.
Right, right.
It's possible to have a sound issue and not exceed the decibel level.
I don't know how to deal with
That's
But
the
that-
issue.
But no, that's
But,
my point, is that
Mike-
it becomes an ordinance issue.
It only become an ordinance issue if it's above that decibel level.
Correct.
Below the decibel level, there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So why, there's nothing to address below,
We can
The
do something
decibel.
about it.
But
if
that's,
it's so
that's
left
exactly
in
my
place.
point, Vinnie.
I don't know if you could, cause if it's a town ordinance, how are you gonna do something about something that's already
Because we set the
established?
Because we have a condition that says that we can.
So
How
what's
do
the
you set a
condition?
condition, what's too loud? If it's not louder than the ordinance, then it's not too loud.
That's
Right.
why we should just review it again.
I don't agree.
That's why you have that ordinance to go after, because if it's not, like Nick's saying, if it's not too loud, you have your baseline already. How can you address something that has a baseline?
The
So
police-
there was, let me just interrupt for 1 second,
Yeah,
okay?
I mean, this is
So there was another issue, and the reason why we put this stipulation on there was not just the noise, okay?
It was
And-
partying in back and it was
Right,
the partying in
right,
front.
so, I mean, we restricted it because we wanted to give them a chance to show us that they weren't gonna run the place like Chicago Sam's. Let's be blunt about it. That was the whole idea of restricting the sound, was, it wasn't because the neighbors were gonna be yelling at 1:30 in the morning. It was because the parking lot was filled with kids at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the police were getting constant calls to go up there and address those issues. That was the issue. Okay, that ties into how late you play the music, but that was really the larger issue. It wasn't the police were getting calls at 1:30 in the morning because the music was too loud. The police were getting calls at 1:30 in the morning because there were kids in the parking lot and there were problems. Okay, so that's why we restricted it, and that's why we had the condition so that we could see how it would go. Okay, so I just wanna kind of move this in that direction.
Yeah.
Now, we're gonna say, and everybody's comfortable with the idea, that we're gonna say that you can have the music until 1:30 AM. You're comfortable that, we're comfortable with that, okay? Now, my only question, and I'm not trying to be negative on anybody, but I'm gonna go back to the issue of playing till 1:30 in the AM. And that's fine, it's what happens after 1:30 AM, that's the issue, okay? And, we're gonna basically say to them, play to 1:30 AM. My only suggestion is that, we leave something in there so that we are able to address that if the issue comes up. Cause it's not a sound issue, okay? And, tomorrow, this special permit, is there, but, the whole idea, part of the idea, again, was that whole issue. So how you wanna address that is up to you, but it's not, I just wanna let you know that it wasn't just the sound, that wasn't why we put that restriction there.
Then my question though is, okay, so we'll put it in something so that when all these people are leaving, and it seemed to be, with the Chicago Sam, it was out into the parking lot. Am I correct? I don't remember, we couldn't bring Chicago Sam in here. So how do you address that when they're outside of their building? And if they fight, or they holler, or whatever they do, who is responsible for the people outside? I mean,
Well, here's
is
the
that
thing.
our- is that our
Here's-
special
here-
permit?
No, here's the thing that you have to understand, okay, so, the business was open, the music went on to 2 o'clock or whatever the thing was. The issue was what happened after the music stopped,
right,
okay? The issue was what happened in the parking lot and after the music stopped. So, the reason why we put the restriction on it originally was we wanted to see if there's no music after a certain time, is there an issue in the parking lot? And there hasn't been an issue in the parking lot, okay? So, kind of the question that I'm raising is, so if we go to 1:30 AM, all right? If all of a sudden there's an issue in the parking lot, how do we go back and say, you know what, there's a problem, we need to go back to 12:30, okay? So, if you guys are comfortable with that, the only way is to have a restriction here,
Staff review quit.
yeah, because otherwise, we're gonna have no authority.
That's exactly.
okay,
That's my
why-
point.
But that's why I've been wondering
Yeah,
what you're
that's,
talking
and
about.
that's all I'm asking, is that we say in December, then we report back to the commission, and we say, this is what we heard from the police, we haven't heard anything, so there's no issue to address.
So that could be a staff report?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying. No,
Staff level.
staff
Staff
level,
level.
because we're just gonna reiterate any information we get from the police. So we're not requiring them to come back in.
I know, but I didn't understand.
Yeah, we're not requiring them to come back in, but I think that, you know, we have to have some way to look at it, because if, you know, this happens all over again, you know, we don't have any bones.
Okay, so how do you want it worded?
But it can happen on any weeknight, doesn't have to be just.
I think we just say the special permit will be reviewed by, the staff will present a report to the commission on the status of the special permit conditions at the December 17th, 2025 meeting.
There you go.
And if we're not happy with the results of that review, we have the authority to change the special permit conditions then?
That's what I think. If the police come back and say, you know what, everything was great until they were open to 1:30, and now we have this problem again.
We can modify it then.
And if they come back and say, you know, they've been open for 6 months, everything's been fine, we have no issues.
Yes?
I just would like to say that September 3rd will be the 1 year that, since we were approved. So would the commission consider making it September, so 3 months from now, instead of another whole 6 months for a staff review?
Well, I think what Stuart's saying is the staff review's based on any complaints coming from the chief. You guys don't have to be present.
I understand that, but I guess my other question would be, once that time period has passed and nothing is, if there's no complaints, then there's no report back anymore, correct? Or is this ongoing, where it's open-ended so that if a complaint comes up next spring,
I see.
do we then get called back in?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
My interpretation of the reply to that question would be that based upon possible police complaints that have been substantiated, not just a complaint, but substantiated noise complaints, that we would go back to you and say, we have an issue with the special permit. Doesn't make a difference that it happens to be this, but any special permit, when we have issues with it, we notify you. So if there are substantiated noise complaints,
Well, it's more than the noise complaints, because the issue with the police is gonna be incidents in the parking lot.
Right.
This is more than noise complaints.
well,
Is
That's,
that-
that's,
Just complaints.
It's just,
yeah.
complaints generate, right.
So a special permit needs to be renewed every year, correct?
No.
no.
They
No.
don't.
No, and to answer the applicant's question, I don't think we don't need to keep having a review period. If there's an issue, like with any special permit or a site plan, if there's an issue, we make you aware of it, and if revocation is in order for any approvals, then the commission takes action.
Right.
So why do we have to put a time frame on it? Why can't we just say a special permit will be reviewed by the commission, pending any substantiated reports from the police department and, presented by the town staff on a status, and then we could go from there. We don't, so we don't, it's like a 6-month circus. I mean, we
It may
keep
not
going over and over and over.
That may not even be needed, because
I
as
know,
I
but
said,
that's what I'm saying, it's,
if you have substantiated complaints that we need to bring to your attention on
Right.
any item,
so we
this
should
one in
word it like
particular.
that. We keep we're going round and round with artificial dates. I
Right.
mean,
Bruce, this was before my time, but did anything like that happen with Chicago State?
oh, yeah,
All the time.
all the time.
And but they
Fights,
came and
gun
back to
violence.
here?
No, because we never had any conditions, so we had no legs under us. And the police
Well, that's
were
not,
there.
it sounds like Bruce is saying that it could have come back to here and you could have revoked their special permit.
Obviously, we can put language in there. I don't have a problem with the language. I just don't wanna keep this,
Chicago Sam's.
it's a revolving door.
Oh,
I
for
agree with you,
sure,
I
yeah.
agree with you.
Right,
I
yeah.
mean, come on.
So my question, I guess, maybe it's for Bruce. So is the actual policy, or, you know, I don't think it's in the regulations, but if there's substantiated complaints by the Cromwell Chief of Police, they can then come to you, who can go to the commission, who can say, we have a problem with this special permit, and then they can then just act on it. But you're saying that was not done with Chicago Sam's? I'm just wondering.
Yes to both of those.
Okay, so if it's already there, then why does there even have to be a review? Because if the chief of police is gonna come and say, okay, well, we have more, the gangs are back in the parking lot, or there's more fights and all this stuff is happening again, he can come to you, go to Bruce, and then Bruce can then just report it. And then we get called in again. But if that's the policy for the town, then why do we even have to have a review in 6 months again?
I have to agree. I just think that if something is going on and the police come and say to us, I think within the guidelines for the special permit, we could call you back in and say, we're revoking the special permit due to things here. I mean, that's how I look at it. If nothing is being said, you know, because you have a special permit that just stays with you. And I just think that for now, that, you know, you've met everything.
Right, but the language wasn't there for Chicago Sam's, and we wanna make sure there's language in it for this.
My understanding from what Bruce said is that there didn't need to be language.
I didn't hear the word didn't need to be. I'm parsing words here. I don't recall you saying doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I don't believe that there needs to be specific language.
So we don't need to make any, so we don't, but if they don't have language in there, as Mike mentioned, then we have nothing to base anything on.
Well, it goes on how our zoning regs are written. Can we at any point in time review any special permit and make changes?
That's a.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Section 6 of the zoning regulations, post-approval actions. Number 4, page 183. And that would be of the new zoning regulations, not the old zoning regulations. Effective June 2nd. Failure to strictly adhere to the documents, plans, terms, conditions, and/or safeguards approved by the commission or its staff shall be a violation of these regulations, and the commission shall have the authority, upon notice and an opportunity to be heard, to revoke the permit at any time the operation is found to be in non-compliance with the original permit.
But the problem is, we have a problem. The problem is that we're saying you can stay open until 1:30 a.m. As a result of being open to 1:30 a.m., now if there's police complaints, we're not talking about noise. We're talking about issues in the parking lot. So this is fine, and what Bruce read is fine, but it says failure to strictly adhere to documents, plans, terms, conditions, and/or safeguards approved by the commission. So if we say you can be open to 1:30 a.m., if stuff happens in the parking lot, it has nothing to do with them being open to 1:30 a.m. It has nothing to do with anything we've said that you have to adhere to in number 4. Okay? So if, and this is a question, and anybody's welcome to answer it, if, you know, in September, the police come back and say, you know what, Stuart? We've had an average of 25 calls every Saturday night there since you allowed them to be open to 1:30. And we're gonna ask that the hours be reduced. So, on what legal grounds do we call them up and tell them we're reducing their hours unless we stipulate it as some type of review? That's a question I have.
No.
That's my question. And if somebody's got an answer for that, I'm open to it.
Well, no, if you wanna put in for any of these special permits that we're doing, the restaurants and things like that, that if the police are called to the establishment, then they have to come back and reduce their hours. I think that's what you're talking about.
I think we have to be more clear than just using the terminology if they're called to the establishment.
Can we put a threshold if it's so many, valid complaints within a 90-day period, the special permit automatically gets reviewed?
No, I really think it's just easy to say that it'll be reviewed, okay? And if there's an issue, the staff will report it. I mean, I don't think that's that onerous. We're not asking them to do anything, and it gives us some legs. Otherwise, we have no legs.
So, can we just remove the date and just say any given meeting? And that way, everything stays the same. Will be reviewed by the commission at any given meeting, and a report, or something like that, so we don't, I mean, the date thing I think is ridiculous.
Okay.
I'm just trying to flatten this out.
And that would be for anybody.
That would be for anybody, any special permit on any given meeting that we received a number of reports, that there's an issue. It could be on a Thursday night, we don't know what happens after 1 o'clock on a Thursday, maybe they have fights in the parking lot then too, I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, if you wanna have something where everybody says they need teeth in it,
Right, I have no problem with the teeth part, I don't want the dates really,
No.
really get cumbersome. If you wanna keep it open-ended like that, that these reports could be presented at any planning and zoning meeting, doesn't have to be by this date.
no, right. If there are substantial reports of problems,
No, I don't think we want language like that.
No,
you
I
keep
think-
it real-
I don't have a
you
problem
Keep it
with-
real simple.
Yeah,
keep it simple, what is it, then, Stuart?
Then it would be basically that the staff will update the commission on any issues with the special permit.
Okay, then that's fine,
That's it.
that's it.
That's all it's gonna say? So there's,
Pardon me?
that's all it would say?
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, Stuart, that's all it would say?
yeah,
Just that one line?
yeah, the staff will update the commission on the conditions of the special permit. And then if all of a sudden, something came up, then we just, we have something we can lean back on.
Yeah, according to the new, the
Yeah.
regulations, yep,
Yeah.
I get it.
So that's the only thing
Yeah.
except the addition of the time going to 1:30.
Yeah, we're changing number 5, number 3, it's gonna say, there shall be no live music or DJ after 1:30 AM on any day. We're changing that. We're not changing anything with number 4. Number 5 is gonna be that staff,
Number 4 should read, in-house security shall be provided until closing time. Get rid of the rest. Cause you want in-house security at all times. Why is it?
okay,
Do they have in-house security on a Sunday?
We already have it, so, yep.
okay, I got that. And then say the staff will report to the commission on the status of the special permit, and that's it. That'll be, and you'll eliminate number 6, that's up to you guys.
Get all that, Linda? Okay, so, watch this, so moved.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let's take a 5-minute break.
Jack, you're gonna bring in the application tomorrow, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The check and the liquor permit.
Yes. Thank you. We found the file.
So, under new business, if everybody's ready. We have application 25-11, which is an application for a site plan modification for a multifamily residential construction at 186 Shunpike Road. The applicant is Carrier Construction, Inc., and the owner is Carrier Construction, Inc. And I'll let Attorney Fury introduce himself.
Attorney Timothy Fury, 43 Bellevue Avenue, Bristol, Connecticut. Present with me is Rock Emons from SLR, our lead design engineering team for the amendments to the site plan. Charlie Talmadge, who is the Director of Planning for Carrier Construction, Inc. Just to note, they both went to high school together with my kids. So, I also want to note Stuart told me to be here really early because the first matter was going to take 5 minutes. So,
Yeah, I'm losing my touch.
I know. So some of you may remember, we were here probably 2 years ago, maybe longer, just after we bought the property, to have a discussion about heading down this path, to rework this site plan. We worked closely with Mr. Snow's previous team to get the initial project over the threshold, if you will, fully approved and recorded, and then the carriers bought the site from JPG, or whatever they called themselves at the time. Since we were in to see you and had these initial discussions about where we thought we were going to want to head with this project, Carrier built a 32-unit project directly across from our library in Bristol on Main Street, which used to be basically a homeless enclave. And now it's a beautiful, upstanding site, has worked out wonderful. And effectively, they proved the market and proved that there was a need for this type of better housing in our community. Then they bought 2 parcels of land in our downtown redevelopment area and have fully constructed, just opened last year, a 55-unit apartment complex that as of about a month ago is fully rented, well in advance of what they anticipated, and they are now constructing the second 55-unit building adjacent to that, because again, they were able to prove the market and the need showed us. Actually, the mayor of the city of Bristol sold his house and moved into one of the units directly across from City Hall. At least he's the mayor now. With the taxes going up, he may not be the mayor next fall, but we'll see. So that is going. So then, as they have been successful in Bristol, they began looking to their other properties and told Charlie and I and hired SLR to begin looking here as coming down the path, getting closer to this project. So we then met with your planning team and discussed what we want to do, showed them some preliminary maps, and then I crafted a letter. Well, I did a bunch of things. I went, after talking with the town staff, and re-reviewed the file at the Superior Court. As you know, this settlement came after litigation with the previous developer, and we determined that often what happens is you reach a settlement agreement, you make it a judgment of the Superior Court, and that is the judgment, that is the rule. In this case, they did it a little bit differently. They reached a settlement agreement with your commission. They then went to the Superior Court asking for permission to withdraw the case, so the case didn't exist. And then you entered into the written settlement agreement with the attached conditions, which have now all been satisfied. After reviewing that, did some research, prepared a letter which has been handed out to you, which Stuart shared with your town attorney. It was in here, my opinion, that because it was a private settlement agreement between the commission on behalf of the town and us as and the previous owner and us as the assignee of the project, that we could enter into a stipulation and agreement changing the private agreement, and your town attorney agreed. She did state, however, that any changes would have to go through this process and to file the fully amended plans on an application, which we did. With the change, what we're essentially doing, and we still have 60 units, we increased the number of 2-bedroom units from 28 to 36, and the number of 1-bedroom units was reduced from 32 to 24. We increased the unit sizes, approximately 100 to 200 square feet per unit. They're not 100 or 200 square foot units, they're just a little bigger, each of them. And the 2-bedroom units will have 2 full bathrooms. The market calls it, you do have a lot of people who are, not married, or if they're have an extra bedroom, they want that second bathroom, to have their own bathroom. We found that's what the market is calling. We basically kept the residential buildings in the same location. Their footprint just changed a bit, which is shown in the plans that you have, and Rock will review in a minute. And we are asking that the two commercial buildings be removed. We have, and Carrier's a very active developer. They're doing commercial, they're doing residential units, and Charlie and I, we looked at a lot of ways to build out those two pads that were out front. And they don't work well because they're coming down into the site. You can't get them to function well. Based on their design, there would be no demand for them. They could be sitting there empty. You could be having discussions like you had on the last application routinely, and we really don't want that. So instead, they've looked to going to more of a pure residential mode with a better presentation from the street, moving the community building, office management structure to the location shown on the plans. We did submit a full set of plans. They did have to go to wetlands because they wanted to make sure, things have changed since it was originally approved. We do have new standards for soil and erosion control, stormwater management in the state of Connecticut, and I'm assuming by this commission in your town. So we upgraded. SLR did all new testing, re-verified all the underground drainage, all the off-site drainage, and did develop a retention basin to make sure that there are no off-site problems caused by what we're doing. So that was done. A wetlands permit was granted with a ruling as being an insignificant activity. We did get approval for the sewer connection, which hadn't been done previously. Your chairwoman was so kind, she was on that to verify that for me earlier. We also had the opportunity, different than the last approval process, to go through all of your boards, and Rock will review that, but we have full sign-off, I believe, from every one of your staff level folks, except to note that if we do on the community building, if we desire to put a kitchen in there, public health will want to review it to make sure. They may want a grease trap or something, but that's more of a build-out issue, and we have not made a decision whether it's a community room with a kitchen or a small gathering room with a gymnasium. They haven't quite gotten that depth here. So with that process, we've gone through the entire design process, and I'm going to have Rock come up and go through it. But the bottom line is we had a stipulated plan with us. We've had discussions about how to improve that plan. We've reviewed that with all of your town staff, and we think we're ready to go. So with that, I'll have Rock give you the summary, and I'll bring this over to you.
Beautiful, thank you. If you would be so kind but to turn the camera, I guess the TVs over to the computer. Just for the record, senior civil engineer, just saying I got that promotion. With SLR International Corporation, offices out of 99 Realty Drive, Cheshire, Connecticut. Here on behalf of the applicant with attorney Fury. This slide was some background from Tim. Just to give everybody some context of the existing site. So the existing site is located at essentially the corner of Court Street and Shunpike Road, identified as 1 Court Street and 186 Shunpike Road, with obviously frontage along both roads. It's behind, if you know, Mom and Pop's liquor store, and across the street from the Learning Experience. The site is primarily kind of meadowy, but mostly scattered trees with some pretty heavy vegetation along the street frontages and along the property lines. Specifically, as Attorney Fury had alluded to, there's a pocket wetland located on the north side. Just so everybody is aware, I'll clarify this. North is actually to the right on this map. So we have a couple pocket wetlands on the right side. And the topography, as Attorney Fury was alluding to with regard to the two previously approved, well, I guess previously proposed commercial buildings along Shung Pike, that topography rolls from about elevation 144 to about elevation 120 at the wetlands. So you have about a 24-foot elevation difference between where Shun Pike is to the right. So you can see that there's kind of like a large elevation change because you're probably going about a little more than a story as you're going into the meadowy area. Kind of in a nutshell with regard to existing conditions. As you can see on the rendering, both in the handout as well and on the screen, we're going to be essentially emulating the original plan, which is 2 driveway connections, a throughway for typical vehicle access, making sure that also fire truck access is available. The main 2 buildings, both encompassing about 30 units each, are 3 stories each for a total of 60 units. There's associated architecture that's in the back of your packet that we'll go over with regard to the different materials that are going to be proposed. The community building, which is located just to the south of the main building 1. It's tucked up north, and I can highlight it so you can understand where I'm talking about, if it wants to highlight. Let's see right here. That's going to be located there. We were planning originally under this proposed plan, we were planning for 120 parking spaces with 22 of them being deferred. We received a town comment from your town staff asking for more parking, so essentially 2 parking spaces per unit. We've learned from the Landon. So we are committing to installing the additional parking spaces to make sure that we're going to be providing 2 parking spaces per unit. So for the full 120, full build out, not going to worry about it whatsoever. As part of this, obviously there's stormwater requirements. As Attorney Fury has noted, the 2024 Water Quality Manual has come out. The 2024 Soil Erosion Control Manual has come out. We've designed a robust drainage system. In previous application had an underground system. Under our design, we're using an above ground system that's located on the north side directly adjacent to the wetlands. We did soil testing and identifying that the soils are actually very, very well draining, like sandy gravel soils. So we're allowing for infiltration to take place at the bottom of the basin. We do not expect that there to be standing water because of, honestly, the ridiculously high infiltration rate. We provided a drainage report that has been reviewed and commented on by John Harriman, the town engineer. He's approved the drainage, saying that it meets the town of Cromwell general standards, as well as, we're providing water quality measures such as the water quality volume within the detention basin or the infiltration basin, and a hydrodynamic separator before it discharges. This will ultimately, if it were to ever overflow, honestly, I wouldn't expect it, but if it were to, it would go to the wetland, pocket in there, and then dissipate. We've also gone to WP. Nice. All right. So as Attorney Fury has also alluded to, we've gone to WPCA. So obviously we have, people, residents, stormwater, or sanitary. So there's a sanitary main that's going to be located in the what I'm gonna call the central corridor. It's kind of hard to read on the screen, but essentially there's a main that's gonna be starting around the community building that goes all the way down to Court Street. We're gonna essentially be installing that. The connection has been reviewed and approved by WPCA, as well as the design for the sanitary has been reviewed by Dan Parisi, the sewer administrator. We've also been approved for the projected flows of about 18,000 gallons per day. This has also been reviewed by the Cromwell Fire District, both from Joe Palmieri with regard to the functionality of how the water mains are going to be installed, different gate valves and things, as well as the fire marshal or the fire chief, I apologize, with regard to hydrants. There was a question or a comment that could we add a hydrant? We redid the plan, we added a hydrant. That way, we meet all town ordinances and requirements. That's with regard to utilities. Erosion controls, we take everything based off the DEP soil erosion control manual. Steep slopes, if they're steep, they have to be, erosion matting. We're specifically providing straw wattles and silt fence along where the upland review area is for the wetlands. We're very cognizant of different environmental features, so making sure that we're not going to be impacting them, as well as diverting stormwater into 2 temporary sediment traps. That way, any of the stormwater that's accumulated, they'll muck out the accumulated silt, take that off site, and everybody's all hunky-dory with regard to the construction. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? The planting buffer, and I can push back 2 things. The planting buffer has been designed by a principal landscape architect that is associated with the landscape architects. I don't know if I guess he is technically a professional landscape architect. And that has been incorporated into the plans to make sure that they're providing the adequate buffer from the residential, because there's a residential zone on what would be the southwest corner. So there's a specific buffer that's associated with that, as well as the buffers that are essentially around. And then I believe we also received a comment about the dumpster enclosure. Currently, the dumpster enclosure, we're looking to provide green giant arborvitae on 3 sides. Your regulations allow for you guys to make a determination on the type of screening, but we, in talking with the owner and talking about what makes the most sense, we are more than willing to also, install a polyvinyl fence with a gate if you were to lean that way. Really, we want to make sure that this is the type of project that you can be proud of, Carrier can be proud of, and keep it with their portfolio. I believe, just one last thing. As part of the previous approval, there were off-site traffic improvements and off-site sidewalk improvements. Those are still definitely part of this plan. All of those previously had been part of an encroachment permit. The applicant will go back through the encroachment permit process. That'll include the sidewalks. There's a crosswalk as well as a dedicated turning lane on Court Street. And I believe we've also satisfied any of the questions that the police chief has had with regard to the offsite improvements and the internals of the property. I think I've covered all the outstanding items. Going to Tim for architecture.
Any questions of Rock before we? Yeah.
Easy ones.
Nice, like it.
EV parking, are you gonna provide any within the complex?
There's none proposed at this time.
Okay.
But, we are going in a changing world, so if they were to propose some at some time, they would come back for a separate application.
Okay.
The only problem is there is a state statute. Have you reviewed the state statute?
For it was 10% EV ready?
Yeah.
Yes, they would have to make it EV ready, but they wouldn't have, well, I guess technically they would have to have your approval for 10 EV, or 12 EV charging stations, that way they could be EV ready. So, yeah. Right.
So under the statute, what we're typically doing is providing the infrastructure, not the actual systems. We provide for the appropriate percentage of EV locations, which is typically the piping from an appropriate electrical location, pad if we've got to put something in. So that is the state statute. It's not your regulation, it's the state statute. So that will be provided. I will tell you, however, in the project we built on Main Street in Bristol, which was before the statute, but it was an incentive for density bonuses under our regulations in Bristol. We put in four charging stations, like present, active there.
Yep.
And one's been used. In 6 years, 4 stations have been used once so far. So one of the things, wearing a different hat, we're discussing is to amend that state statute to provide that they consider weighing in the percentages that they're requiring people to, like you didn't want to make this young man waste money on that kind of dollars.
Yes.
To let the, not that EV is not important and isn't potentially coming, but personally I don't think it's coming nearly as fast as everybody thinks it's gonna.
No.
That they back that off and revisit it in time. But for now, unless that changes before we go to construction, there would be the appropriate percentage of infrastructure installed. Whether they would put in some EV charging stations would be, I think, market driven.
The bigger reason why I ask is that when EV stations are put in, those stalls become not usable because they're placarded for only EV. So that does alter the mix and the dynamic of how many stalls you have per available unit.
So here, working with Carrier, and we've had a number of projects, and I know you've had a different experience here, Stuart, and I have talked to at length, and especially because we have, still a pretty large number of one-bedroom units. We believe at 2 a unit, which we're building, we're well over parked. 1.5 has worked for us everywhere that we go. But we're going to build the 2, and with that, I think even with your concern, if we build them the full 10% out, I can't imagine we'd have a problem here, based on our experience, which is reasonably extensive as a company.
Okay.
Third question. So we had 3.
Actually third.
Okay.
Are you providing for any affordable housing?
At this point, we're not. Our funding sources are traditional lenders. This property is currently financed really on a temporary basis by Collinsville Savings, which is the larger bank, what's now Northwest Savings out in the Litchfield Hills. They do a lot of work. We just borrowed from Torrington Savings, provided the end financing for the first building in Bristol, and they do a lot of work with Thomaston Savings Bank. So they do have traditional lenders. The Carrier family, and you have other, your chairman and I were discussing earlier, have the other Carrier family in your community, pretty tight-knit group, separate but tight-knit. They have a relative up in Maine who is pretty well heeled, and both Carrier groups often borrow from Carrier Capital in Maine for their construction process, and then they borrow end financing from traditional lenders here in Connecticut. I don't think we've used Ion Bank with them, but with 3. So at this point, there is, that is not in the mix. They don't traditionally go to the state programs that would have the requirement of affordability. But with the one-bedroom units, they tend to be more reasonably priced. In Bristol, which is a community that probably has more, we're not subject to the 8.3G because we have enough, but there is a need for appropriate housing. They filled up the building pretty quickly. So I guess depending what the statutes do and what the governor signs, there may be some affordable components. I think as a community that's a good thing, but it isn't being designed that way today, and that isn't their traditional funding source. And I could have all kinds of opinions on that, but it doesn't matter, okay? Any other questions of Rock? Okay, so just a couple quick matters. Really one of the only comments we got back initially was from your police chief, who was not the police chief when we did the original project. And then we had Anthony Russo, who's the senior transportation manager, planner at SLR, prepare a supplemental report. He reviewed all the accident data. He re-looked at the plan. He noted that, you know, with traffic, there's actually less pressure here for a couple reasons. A, we're not proposing to build the commercial units, so we don't have that traffic pressure. B, I guess the traffic patterns actually, you know, since COVID and after are down on that pathway. And of course, we do have the light right there that does provide for appropriate gaps. So after that report was submitted electronically to Stewart on June 5th, and as soon as I got it, and by June 6th, we got a report back from your chief saying, I am satisfied. I'm looking at it, and it's in your packet. So Mr. Russo did a good job, and I think your chief was satisfied when it was done. We do have a rendering of the building here, a combination of brick, masonry, a combination of siding, and also of, you know, they typically use a lot of the low maintenance but attractive, you know, highlights and trim, the AZEC type thing. There is a list on the drawing. If you can read it on your plan, I need better eyesight to do it. The units are provided with small patios for places for people to, you know, to get out. And I will tell you, just they all seem small to me, but when the project on Main Street in Bristol, I can see right out the back of my parking lot of my own building, and I go by it quite often. And the one on Main Street is across from City Hall, and I go by that quite often, obviously, because I'm in City Hall a lot in Bristol. And the patios are actually pretty functional. People have, you know, may have their bicycle, may have the one chair, and their little coffee table out there. People have some flower pots. So it does, you know, you're not going to have the party with 15 people out there, but it does give people enough of an area to, you know, escape the confines of their home. And in this case, you know, we do anticipate there will be some opportunity in the clubhouse building for some gathering space there as well. And then hopefully they're down the street at Murphy's, you know, partaking in the band. Right. So as part of what I've prepared and provided to Stewart, I did an addendum to the settlement memorandum. It cites a little bit of the history of how we got there. It cites the changes to the plan that are in the original letter to Stewart, and then it cites the full set of plans and details that are here, that are before you. And as with your prior the settlement agreement, it cites the memorandums of all the staff members and subject to compliance with them. This case a little bit different because the plans you have before you that have been amended comply with all staff comments. So, but I put it here in case you wanted those referenced. So if you are comfortable with the plan set in terms of an amended plan set, I would suggest that you approve the amendment to the settlement memorandum based on verification of that we've gotten all the final plan sets referenced there correctly. Whatever memorandums the staff wants referenced in it, and Stewart may just want to review it himself or run it one last time by Ms. Olson. That's your decision before the chair and we sign off because it's a contractual type of thing as well as an approval. And I have an extra copy of that. And they are beginning to actively talk to some of the lending and finance people to get ahead of it down the road, based on what are they 2 stories up with the framing in Bristol right now? Yeah, so if that one goes well, I don't know if it'll be in this calendar year, but could be early in the next calendar year that they, because this is, one on their radar. And I'm happy to answer any questions. We have the team here as well.
Could you just go over what type of, the unit is going to be what? Clad, I mean, real brick or that make-believe brick that looks like real brick?
Oh, whether the brick in the front, yeah, I believe it's real brick.
Okay.
But if
and
it's the other brick, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, by the way.
Right, also what the, okay, and also what the siding is up there.
So they would typically use high-end vinyl siding or the hardy board, but certainly things that don't have to be painted regularly, things that maintain their look over the long term.
And what color?
I think it's the colors that you're seeing there. I think it's
Okay.
it's a brick and a beige.
Vinyl lap siding, it's extra white, which I guess is more than white.
Pardon?
It's extra white.
Extra white? White?
No, it's a beige.
I was gonna say,
The extra white is the trim.
Yeah, okay.
The extra white is the trim.
Not an architect.
Yeah, right. The extra white is the trim and the.
what are those things on the roof?
They're just an architectural gable feature, just to break up the roof line.
And then these things are just dimensions, so those aren't actually.
That's
No.
12.
Good place for pigeons to go. Okay.
Madam Chair? I have
Yeah.
a question for the applicant, for Rock. You mentioned that on the 2 dumpsters,
Right.
after considering staff comments from Health Department and from my comments,
Yep.
that you would consider putting what type of a,
A polyvinyl fence with a gate, if that's what if it provides better screening or better security, we're more than willing to, make the extra effort.
so my only concern with that is, based on what I've seen on those types of fences, not to speak disparagingly of the drivers of the refuse trucks, however, notwithstanding, they tend to bump them a little bit once the gates are open, and they get damaged, and they less than ideal of what this presentation of this beautiful building and the campus that they're proposing. So I would propose some type of a hardy structure, maybe a masonry structure, something to maybe complement or model what they've already got there, but definitely not something that's gonna be easily damaged. The plastic type material in the wintertime, when you get to sub-freezing, it tends to crack when it gets bumped into easily, and then they're into repair or damaged fence, so, just my experience from what I've seen, a hard structure around it as opposed to the fence with the slats or a plastic fence even.
So what Carrier has done in its other sites, especially the one that I can see out my back window, is they don't typically like to do masonry walls, because if someone bumps those, they're a lot tougher to fix. If we have a wooden structure or the vinyl with the slats or the plastic structure, they can be repaired quickly, and you don't have unsightly situations, or have things be able to get in at the dumpsters. Then what they often do is they have a strong bollard type structure in the front. So imagine if this is the dumpster enclosure, be it with vinyl slatted fence or whatever. Here, you would have a bollard structure, and you would have they put in stronger fencing, which often has a steel. That's what it has a steel skeleton that they put wood in, so it's attractive, but it's a steel structure, and that's the gate structure. But
I'm familiar with it, yes.
yeah, but there's a space here, so the customer, the homeowner, can go in deposit their waste. So the fenced area is a bit protected because it's not a part of the gate and it's able to do it. So, you know, I would just suggest you ask staff to approve and we will get something that meets that standard. But again, I don't think masonry is the answer, because when someone bumps that baby, it's gonna be cracked and unsightly for a time. So I think and the one on Main Street, it's done very well, right? It's wood, but I think it has a
For the record, Charlie Talmadge, representing Carrier Construction, principal offices at 161 Birch Street in Southington. Our standard for enclosures has been a galvanized steel skeleton wrapped with a pressure-treated wood picket, like you would normally see on a wood picket fence, and they have performed very well and are easily maintained and modified if the case may be. Unfortunately, the thing that seems to happen is, as you mentioned, the truck drivers are very willing to get out of the cabs to open the gates, but they are not at all willing to get out to close them. They sort of just kind of whip around in the breeze. So the bollard actually helps limit how far the gate can swing, which limits the damage on the gate itself. So that system has worked very well for us in several communities, and we would be proposing the same here.
Now, is that,
Yeah, that's acceptable.
and also, Stuart, is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to just say one thing. You know, this is a difficult site, and, you know, Cromwell has a lot of areas that are very close. We have residential on one side, we have commercial on one side. And, you know, this site could have, in theory, been a shopping center. Could have been a strip shopping center that backed up to a residential neighborhood. There could be, where the building closest to the residential zone could be a big Y. And there could be deliveries at 6:30 in the morning all summer long. What this development does is it provides a transition from the commercial area along Shunpike to the residential neighborhood behind it. So this is really kind of the best way to transition from the commercial to the residential. So this will have much less impact on the Court Street neighborhood. They were very concerned about that. And I want to compliment the carriers on putting together a development that would really kind of complement the neighborhood and fit in. And I compliment the engineering staff and the construction company and their attorney. We've worked very closely with them, and they've been very cooperative, as you can see from the staff comments. And again, I think that this will provide a very good transition to the residential neighborhood on Court Street. And I want to thank you guys for all your efforts.
Any commissioners have any comments or questions for our applicant? Okay.
I just want to compliment you on your presentation. It was very thorough in the packet. It was delightful to be able to read it ahead of time and see that you had taken all the staff comments into consideration ahead of time. So it was easy to listen to you tonight because I read the packet.
Oh, there you go, thank you.
Well done, and I do like the way the buildings are situated, so they're back away from the street. I think that that was a nice use of a difficult location.
Well, and in terms of the ability to make it a rentable property, we thought having a more attractive gateway would be helpful, you know.
I understand the money part of it as well.
Yes, yes, believe me, the carriers do. They've been but they're ridiculous.
Silly looking.
You know, but we can take another, you typically like to have something breaking it up, but maybe it is.
Or put a faux window in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, even if you did the trim.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, and put black in between the trim,
Or even a vent.
you know.
We can take another look at that.
I
Yeah,
know, it's a
no,
minor matter.
No, everything, you know, every odd, you know, the details count. So, thank you for the suggestion.
Anybody else would like to make any comments?
All set.
All set, Bruce?
Yeah, I'm satisfied, thank you.
Any conditions?
Any conditions?
Okay.
We did put in the one condition on the motion about the completion of the off-site improvements before the second school record, before we bought the property, we made sure the town of Cromwell controlled all the land that would be necessary to make the improvements to Court Street. So we had Snow transfer those to the town as part of what Mr. Popper and I worked on previously. So not to us, because we have no, you know, if we never build it, the town would still have control of the road and the land associated with it, and that's already happened. And I forwarded Stuart a copy of that deed when we
That
started talking about this again.
That was the sliver of land at the corner.
Yes, part of it.
Yeah.
That allows the,
I remember we did an 8-24 for it.
yeah, and we not only got the land that allows sidewalks to be built and the lane to be built, we got sloping rights and everything done. So that's all happened already.
Snow. Where are you gonna put all your snow removal? I mean, that's all we hear. When people go into these places, they don't have any place to put their cars and things like that, so that's, you know.
So typically, for the smaller level storms, they
What?
push it around, they'll lose a few spaces maybe. And for larger storms, they truck it out. I mean, they get vendors and they move it. This is what they're doing in downtown Bristol. We didn't have many big storms this year, so hopefully, with global warming, there'll never be a problem again. But
So when you say they truck it out, who is the they?
they hire, just like they hire a trash vendor, they hire a snow vendor with trucks. You know, my little law office in Bristol, we have 16 parking spaces behind, and our vendor, when the bigger storms come, gets his payloader and a pickup and I don't know, I don't ask him where he takes it though, but it goes somewhere.
No, that's why I was just saying is because, you know,
Yeah, we have, you know, and if you have lease obligations to your tenants, and if someone leases apartment B with spaces 1 and 2,
okay,
you gotta clear spaces 1 and 2 for them, so.
okay, thank you, I just,
Yeah.
you know,
No, I get it, thank you.
okay, that's it.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve application, excuse me, 2511, site plan modification for multifamily residential construction at 186 Shun Pike
Do we have to include this?
with the, let's see, with the understanding that the amendment to settlement memorandum is included in that approval. Is that okay, Stuart?
Is there anything else, Stuart, or no?
Somebody have anything else?
Okay,
Second.
okay, second on that motion, please?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome to Cromwell.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the fact that Carrier doesn't form an LLC of no names
No
and
name, right.
disappear and you stick your name on it and you stick by it.
Oh,
So-
by the way, when are you gonna start?
Well, that's how they're on the second floor of the second Bristol project, and they're looking down the road for the next one, so hopefully, one of the reasons they wanna get this done is because they'll start dealing with their financing partners, looking down, I would assume, hopefully next year.
Pardon?
I would assume hopefully next year.
Next year? No, I know, well, we're only 6 months into it this year.
He's gonna finish in Bristol.
Oh,
The next building in Bristol.
okay.
Take care of my town first, I'm sorry. These guys go all the way to high school, they're in Thorntown. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. A minutes, cause I wasn't here.
So I don't know if anybody had any comments on the subdivision regulations, we are working on them. We, came up with some, in regards to the application, there was a very interesting checklist that we're working with the engineering department, because some of the terms on the checklist are so old that none of us know what they are. So they refer to plats,
Right,
you know, things like that, but they're not used anymore.
but also, Stuart, cause I've reviewed, there's a lot missing in, what is the subdivision regulations for? That's what I wanted to ask. When are they used?
They're used when we get a subdivision application.
Okay, and
They're reviewed by town staff and they're reviewed by the applicant. to
So-
Make sure they comply with all those requirements.
okay, so, because it's been a while, so we use those when Arbor? Okay,
Close.
all right, because I looked and the ones that I received,
We can talk about it.
okay, fine.
I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you did, cause all of a sudden I was looking. Okay, May sixth, minutes?
You're gonna continue any changes to be highlighted and do like they are now?
Yeah, we're gonna
Right.
continue to discuss that.
Yeah,
Yeah, if anybody's got any comments, please get them to us. We're working with the town engineer on the, and also with public improvement standards. So if you have any comments on it, please get them to us, and we'll set up a meeting. or we'll
Can't
set up
approve 'em.
a-
can't, who's missing?
We only have 4. Need 5, right? 5 is quorum.
Right, but who's there and not here?
We only have me, John, Nick, and Andrew. You were out.
Yeah, but are these the only people that were at the meeting?
Yeah,
They're the only ones that can approve.
right,
Oh.
and we can't approve them because we only have 4 people. We need 5.
Well, unless somebody, I can listen to the minutes,
Or we can do it next meeting.
next meeting.
Yeah. Okay, so there's nothing, we can't approve the minutes. No commissioners' comments. Oh, other than the letter I passed out earlier,
I send that
if
out.
everybody can send it out, I recommend sending it snail mail so that they end up having paper in their face rather than hitting delete on a computer.
You'd like us to sign it as individuals,
If you,
commissioners?
I think it's, appropriate that you sign it as a commissioner of the Cromwell Planning and Zoning Commission.
Does anybody have any objections that?
No.
No?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
I'm asking, right? If we
Right.
send it as a group, we might as well just make sure
Yeah.
we're all nodding our heads yes.
Yep, so, I already sent mine in, so
you say snail mail, what's the heck is that?
snail mail is with a stamp and an envelope
Oh,
instead of electronic.
So then it goes to Springfield first before